Here we will work through questions 7 through 10 on this review. They all have to do with lines. So this first one is pretty straightforward. This is in slope-intercept form already. We actually start with the y-intercept here, and we graph that first. So our y-intercept is -5. You put a -5 on the y-axis, and then you use the slope here to find some other points. So from that -5, our rise is 3 and the run is 2. So up 3, 1, 2, 3, and right 2. And we will do that again, up 3, right 2. And we can fit one more point on there. So there are some points on the line. This one's just asking us to graph the entire line, so we do connect it. And so we can graph that line right there. There's the graph of the line, y equals 3/2 x minus 5. The next one here is not in slope-intercept form. There's probably a few different ways to do this, but probably the easiest way is to put it in slope-intercept form. So we're going to go ahead and add 4y to both sides. Slope-intercept form is when you add solve for y. So right now we have 4y equals, we usually put our x term first, so -3x plus 20. We'll divide everything by 4. When we divide this right side by 4, it's a common denominator, so we can write it as -3/4 x. And then 20 divided by 4 is 5. And then we can graph this. Again, this is the y-intercept, so we start at 5. Our slope is -3/4. This negative can go with the top or the bottom, but not both. So let's think in the numerator. So that would be down 3, right 4. And if we tried to do that again, it would be off our graph. So let's go ahead and graph that line through those points. Looks like it would be about right here. And there's the graph of the line. Looks like maybe we could, yeah, there we go. So that's graphing lines. Next, we're going to be writing equations of lines. There were several different types we had here. In this case, we're given slope. We want to write the slope-intercept form, the equation of the line through the given points. Well, we're going to go ahead and do that. We learned how to do this 2 ways, but for both of them, we had to find the slope. So let's go ahead and find the slope. Slope equals y sub 1, so 1 minus y sub 2, so 1 minus 4, over x sub 1, -1, minus x sub 2, which is 0. And that gives us 1 minus 4 is -3, -1 minus 0 is -1, gives us 3. Now from this, we could go a few different routes. Actually, this right here is very helpful. When it goes through the point where an x is 0, and you know a y value, this is going to be our y-intercept. So really from right here, we could do y equals our slope 3, x, and then plus 4. That's the easiest way to go. We also could have used point slope form and plugged our slope and either one of the points in there, and you could have solved it. So that's another method. Also, you could use y equals mx plus b. You could put the slope in 3 with either of the points going in for -1, going in for x and y, and then solve for b, and once you have m and b, you could write it. This one will actually do both those second options just so you can get some practice. We didn't need it here because we had the answer so quickly. This one says write the slope-intercept form of the equation of the line described. It says it goes through the point 4, 5 and is perpendicular to y equals -2x minus 2. So we have a point that it goes through, and this is going to help us find the slope. We know that if they're perpendicular, the slopes are negative reciprocals, so that means you change the sign. So this slope is -2. We want a positive, and we want the reciprocal of this, which is 1/2. Just as a reminder, if this was parallel lines have the same slope. But it's not, so let's go ahead and use this point with this slope. So option 1, we can use point slope form, which I wrote up there earlier, but here it is again. We can plug in the point, so x goes, or 4 goes in for x sub 1, 5 goes in for y sub 1, and 1/2 goes in for the slope. And the other x and y just stay as they are. And we want it in slope-intercept form. We actually started with point slope form, and now we're going to change it. This 1/2 can distribute. That would be negative, sorry, not negative, 1/2 x minus half times 4 is 2. And then lastly, we would add 5 to both sides and get y equals 1/2 x plus 3. So there's our answer, but I told you I would do both methods, so y equals mx plus b. And what we can do is we can put this, in this case, put the 4 and 5 right in for the x and y. So x is 4, y is 5, and our slope is 1/2. And when we do it this way, we use this to find b. We know this is equal to 2. This reduces. And then we could subtract that 2 from both sides. So b equals 3. Now that we know the slope and the y-intercept, we can write the equation of the line as y equals 1/2 x plus 3. Either way, we got the correct answer.